There is a castle on a cloud. I like to go there in my sleep. Aren't any floors for me to sweep? Not in my castle on a cloud. There is a room that's full of toys. There are 100 boys and girls. Nobody shouts or talks too loud. Not in my castle on a cloud. There is a lady all in white, holds me and sings a lullaby. She's nice to see and she's soft to touch. She says, Cosette, I love you very much. I know a place where no one's lost. I know a place where no one cries. Crying at all is not allowed. Not in my castle on a cloud.
Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of the people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of the heart echoes the beating of the drum, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes.
On my own, pretending he's beside me. All alone, I walk with him till morning. Without him, I feel his arms around me. And when I lose my way, I close my eyes, and he has found me. In the rain, the pavement shines like silver. All the lights are misty in the river. In the darkness, the trees are full of starlight, and all I see is him and me forever and forever. forever. And I know it's only in my mind that I'm talking to myself and not to him. And although I know that he is blind, still I say there's a way for us. I love him, but when the night is over, he is gone. The river's just a river. Without him, the world around me changes. The trees are barren everywhere, the streets are full of strangers. I love him, but every day I'm learning. All my life I've only been pretending. Without me, his world will go on turning. A world that's full of happiness that I have never known. I love him. I love him. I love him, but only on my own.
There's a grief that can't be spoken. There's a pain goes on and on. Empty chairs at empty tables. Now my friends are dead and gone. Here they talked of revolution. Here it was they lit the flame. Here they sang about tomorrow, and tomorrow never came. From the table in the corner, they could see a world reborn, and they rose with voices ringing, and I can hear them now, the very words that they had sung became their last communion. Barricade at dawn. Oh, my friends, forgive me that I live and you are gone. Empty chairs at empty tables where my friends will meet no more. Phantom faces at the windows, phantom shadows on the floor. Empty chairs at empty tables where my friends will meet no more. Oh, my friends, don't ask me what your sacrifice was for. Empty chairs at empty tables where my friends will sing no more. God on high, hear my prayer. In my need, you have always been there. He is young, he's afraid. Let him rest, heaven blessed. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home. He's like a son I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one, how soon they fly on, and I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take, you can give. Let him be, let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him home.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by, where hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid, and dreams were made and used and wasted. There was no ransom to be paid, no song unsung, no wine untasted. tasted, but the tigers come at night with their voices soft as thunder, as they tear your hope apart, as they turn your dreams to shame. He spent a summer by my side. He filled my days with endless wonder. He took my childhood in his stride, but he was gone when autumn came. And still I dream he'll come to me, that we will live the years together. But there are dreams that cannot be, and there are storms we cannot weather. I had a dream my life would be so different from this hell I'm living, so different now than what it seemed.
A reading from the book of Romans. Hear what God's Spirit is saying to you. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why doth he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. Here ends the reading of words that give us insight on God. May God grant to us wisdom and courage for interpretation.
Today we continue our Theology of Broadway series with the Theology of Les Misérables, Les Mis, the miserables, the miserable ones, those who are dispossessed. The Broadway play is, of course, based on Victor Hugo's 1862 novel by the same name, and the events of the novel take place in the early part of the 19th century, beginning in 1815, and then over the course of several years, climaxing in June of 1832 with the June Rebellion on June 5th and 6th of 1832. This novel was well regarded in its time, often named as one of the best novels of the 19th century, so of course, it had to head to Hollywood and to Broadway, right? In 1980, the French version of the play that was a sung-through musical premiered, and it was quickly translated into English, where we got the version that many of us know. And Les Mis is the second longest running play in the world, second only to the off-Broadway production of The Fantastics. That is to say that it's been around for a while, and I may have some spoilers in my sermon, but I mean, folks, you have had since the last part of the 19th century to catch up on this story. So if I spoil something, I don't feel too bad. When my oldest daughter was preparing to sing this morning, she had never seen Les Mis, and she said, "What's it about, Dad?" And I said, it's about love and hate. It's about greed and resentment. It is about romance, love triangles. It's about money and power. And ultimately, it is about redemption. And she said, "Yeah, but what's the story, Dad?" I said, "Oh, yes, right." It, of course, focuses on Jean Valjean. He begins as prisoner 24601, serving out the end of his 19-year prison sentence. And what was he in prison for? Stealing a loaf of bread so that his nephew would survive. That's it. 4 years for stealing a loaf of bread, and then 15 years more for trying to escape. Stealing a loaf of bread so that he wouldn't survive, even though Jesus gave out bread and fish for free, and he said, "I was hungry and you gave me food." We often live in societies, even like ours, in which people do not have enough, while people at the top have way more than they need, and that's how it was for Valjean. He steals so that his nephew will survive, and he is released, but before he is, the guard who is singularly focused on the letter of the law, Javert, make sure that Valjean knows that if he goes forth and he breaks parole, that there will be consequences, and that Javert will be right there ready to take him back to prison. Valjean goes forth, and he looks for work, but quickly discovers that he can't find any because of his criminal past. You see, he has to present his papers, and everywhere he goes, people can see that he was imprisoned. Reminds me of, in our country, how people are often convicted for minor nonviolent offenses, and they have that follow them for the rest of their lives. I remember one time I was in New Haven, Connecticut, and I was walking to Subway to get lunch, and I saw somebody sitting on the curb, and she asked if I could give her money for food. And I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go in, Subway. Can I just get you something?" And she said, "Sure." And she didn't want to come in the restaurant with me, so I went and I got the food, and I brought it out to her, and we both sat down on the curb there, and we started to share a meal together. And she started to tell me about her story, and she had just gotten out of prison, and she didn't have any family. She didn't have any friends outside of the system. She didn't have any money. She didn't have a job. She was basically there on that curb trying to decide what she was going to do next. And I couldn't solve her problems. I couldn't fix the system. All I could do was share communion with her in that Subway sandwich. And that's the experience of so many people in our society, is that they carry that mark with them. And so it was for Valjean, that he could not get a job, and so he found himself sleeping outside of a church when a kindly bishop invited him in for the night, fed him, made sure he had a place to sleep, and Valjean, in the middle of the night, rewarded them by stealing all the silver in the church and leaving. It wasn't long before he was apprehended, and he told the police that he had been given those items by the bishop. And so the police take him back to the church and ask if the bishop really gave him all the silver. And the bishop replies, yes, as long as he will use it to become a better man. And Valjean, at that moment, has a come to Jesus moment. He stands and then kneels in the chapel, praying for forgiveness and redemption, promising that he will become a better man. Of course, it's not like he really did anything wrong here, folks. All he did was try to survive. Stole bread so that he could eat, stole silver because he had no other options, because those at the top had much, while those at the bottom had little to nothing. But Valjean makes a commitment to live a reformed life. And years pass, and he has been able to do that. He has started a factory. He's a factory owner. He employs people in the town, and he is the mayor of this town. But of course, Javert is now no longer a prison guard. He is an inspector and assigned to this town. And in that factory, we see Fantine. And the other women are jealous of Fantine because she's beautiful, she takes care of herself, and she has the audacity to reject the foreman's advances. And when they discover that she has a child and she's sending every franc that she earns to that child, they take it as an opportunity to have her fired. And the foreman dismisses her because he's already unhappy with her. And it's not like women in the early part of 19th century in France had a lot of options for how they could earn income. And so she ends up on the street, first selling her hair, and then her teeth, and then her body, just to survive. You know, Jesus, in the Gospel of Matthew, is asked about divorce. Anyone ever had what he said weaponized against you? A lot of people want to take what Jesus teaches about divorce and transplant it to the 21st century as if it applied universally to 21st century American life. But Jesus puts pretty strict limitations on how and when people can divorce, but there's a good reason for that. In the ancient world, people often didn't have much say over who they could marry or when they could get married, and women had little opportunity to accumulate things for themselves. They were often seen as the property of their husbands, and men could dismiss their wives for something as trivial as burning dinner, which meant that they were out on the streets with nothing. They were dismissed. So why does Jesus want in the first century to put limitations on that? Because he cared about people who were marginalized. Because he cared about women who might be thrown on the streets. And he said that's not right. And yet this is exactly what happens to Fantine. Her child's father has left them behind. She's earning wages in whatever way she can, and then she is dismissed and ends up on the street. Through prostitution, she catches tuberculosis, and right before she dies, Valjean reconnects with her and promises to take care of her daughter, Cosette. By this time, Javert has figured out who he is, and Valjean goes as fast as he can to the innkeepers, the Thénardiers, the ones who have been exploiting Fantine for every franc she has, and he settles what debt they feel like is owed, and Valjean takes Cosette and lives the next few years on the road. Now look, the second part of the play takes place with the background of the June Rebellion. And it is a story in which we see a love triangle between Eponine, the Thénardier's daughter, and Cosette, now an adult, and Marius, a wealthy man who joins the rebellion because he believes in the cause. And we see primarily the story of love and sacrifice and how love endures beyond that sacrifice. We see Eponine give her life to save Marius. We see Valjean give his life to ensure Cosette's happiness. And we see the rebels give their lives because they love the Republic of France and cannot stand to see it become a monarchy once again. And in each of those situations, what we see is love living beyond the sacrifice. And you see, that's the message of Jesus, too. Not in the way I think that a lot of Christians typically talk about that, but Jesus died for a cause that he believed in. He sacrificed and loved, endured. You see, Jesus, on what we now call Palm Sunday, staged a planned protest against the Roman Empire. And then on the Monday of Holy Week, Jesus went into the temple and he staged a protest against the people in the temple, the religious leaders who were colluding with the Roman Empire against their own people. Then on Tuesday, he went out into the temple and he taught in the temple against the same leaders who were exploiting their people. Then on Wednesday, he broke down gender norms and barriers whenever he was anointed by a woman. And then on Thursday, he had his last meal with his disciples in which he reminded them that they were loyal ultimately to the reign of God. And on Friday, he was killed for all of that. And then through the sacrifice, love continued to endure as a whole generation of people were inspired to non-violent resistance. And that love continues to ring out through the ages as we are inspired today as well to continue that kind of sacrifice, a sacrifice in which we continue to dream God's dream, a dream in which our world is permeated not by violence, but by peace through the presence of justice. Jesus sacrificed, and that love endured and continues to endure. And so it is our call as people in the 21st century, as faithful people who see the world crashing down around us, to hold on to that dream and to proclaim it with every fiber of our being that a different type of world is possible. And so whenever we see conflict in our world, whenever we see that we are not living up to the highest ideals of our nation, whenever we see that we are clearly not living up to the values that Jesus taught us, we continue to engage in the same kind of acts that Jesus did. We continue to engage in the forms of resistance that we are able. Paul reminds the folks to whom he is writing that in this world, we often don't see God's reign, God's will, in the way that we would like. It is often covered, and yet we can feel the hope for something better within our bones, even if we don't see evidence of it in the places we hope to see it. And it is our job as people of faith to bring that hope from within our bones and speak it out into the world. So that is our call today, folks, to let that hope live within us, reside within us, and be spoken out into the world so that it might become true. May it be so, and thanks be to God. Amen.